Good afternoon. I'd like to call to order the meeting of the Oklahoma City Water Utilities Trust. First order of business is to approve the minutes of the July the 18th, 2017 meeting, and I'd recognize a motion to that.
So moved.
It's been moved. Is there a second? Moved and seconded. We'll vote. Approved. Likewise, the consent docket. There's a number of points, but we can make a motion.
Move subject to individual consideration.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Any items for individual consideration? We'll vote. Approved. There is nothing on the concurrence docket that I can see. So we'll move into the items for individual consideration. And first we have a presentation on the Memorandum of Understanding with the City of Oklahoma City and the City of Yukon, and another Memorandum of Understanding with the City of Oklahoma City and the City of Yukon to allow the City of Yukon to temporarily serve the Frisco Ranch development north of Northwest 23rd Street from Richland Road to Frisco Road.
All right, thank you guys, thank you Chairman very much. Trustees, I appreciate the opportunity to speak to you regarding this. As you said, this is the Memorandum of Understanding we've been working on with the City of Yukon. Before we get into this, we'll just briefly discuss how we work with other cities, some of the other agreements and stuff we have. Current Yukon agreement, how our relationship with them, proposed development area that this Memorandum of Understanding will address. Two key items for the Memorandum of Understanding is temporary service to the development, and then also wastewater master planning for the area, and some of the key conditions of the Memorandum of Understanding. So working with other cities, we have 19 wholesale customers. We're working on several agreements. We've worked well with Edmond here recently. On this docket, we've got past the amended agreement with them for universal water service, so that way Edmond can serve customers inside Oklahoma City through a wholesale meter, particularly the Falls development up on the northeast side of town. And then we're also working closely with Moore, something we presented back to you in the spring about doing universal water and wastewater agreements for service to some areas inside Oklahoma City on South Sunny Lane Road. So working with Yukon is just another extension of that. Right, currently we've got a wholesale agreement with Yukon where we provide them water service. We do not provide them wastewater service at this time. They're our second largest water customer at about 500 million gallons a year. And in some months we're supplying about 60% of their water supply. So they're a good customer. We're helping them out. It's a good relationship. So we were approached by a developer for development up near Frisco Road and Interstate 40. Looking at the map in front of you, you can see where we're just west of City of Yukon there. That's in the vicinity of the C.E. Page Airport. They've submitted a PUD. The PUD has gone through Planning Commission, Council, do residential, retail, and commercial development in this area. So we have some challenges with service to this area. Currently, we have water infrastructure located on 10th Street, but that's a mile away, and it's a single 12-inch water main that gets taxed during summer peak season. So it's not available to serve a development of this magnitude. We'd have to do significant infrastructure improvements. They'd have to bring water from about 2.5 miles away where we have large enough mains and infrastructure. So it's not cost feasible for them to do that. Wastewater service, this is a basin where we don't currently have wastewater infrastructure. And we'll come back to that later in the presentation. So the basin flows north. There's no downstream receiving treatment plant, no infrastructure. So Yukon has facilities that are available to serve this area, and we've had discussions with their staff and their city management, talk about how we can work through that, and that's how it got us to this MOU process. So as far as the master planning aspect of the MOU, this map in front of you shows a larger basin, shows the areas in west and southwest Oklahoma City that don't currently have wastewater service. So the focus of the MOU, the three major plants in the area are the Yukon Wastewater Treatment Plant, Mustang Wastewater Treatment Plant, and then our South Canadian plant, Oklahoma City's. So the MOU looks at doing a partnership with Yukon for the West OKC drainage basin that we don't currently have any infrastructure. And then later, not part of this MOU, but we'll be looking at how we can develop infrastructure for Southwest Oklahoma City some of those areas further south that don't have sewer infrastructure currently. So in this wastewater master planning process, UConn is going to be a key member of our team. They're going to be part of our selection committee and be involved all the way through the process. We're going to work closely with the planning commission, or excuse me, with our planning department, development, to look at development scenarios and how we see that this area, or how they see this area will grow out, to make sure we can get the right solutions in place. We'll be developing the long-term solutions, looking at what are the long-term infrastructure needs, but also what are the interim requirements, so that way we can develop the basin properly. And what are funding vehicles that we can use for this? We don't have a lot of areas in Oklahoma City where we don't have downstream treatment plants, so what's the right way for people to pay into these infrastructure improvements? And as part of this, we're going to be looking with the City of Yukon, how can we team with them? Do we look at teaming on going in on their current wastewater facility, or do we look at building a combined facility that handles both of our needs? So those will be the goals of that study. So within the MOU, some of the conditions stipulated are UConn's going to provide service to these areas until Oklahoma City can take it over, so we consider that a temporary service. Infrastructure will be built to the greater of theirs or our standard, and then upon transfer of service from UConn to Oklahoma City, it will become Oklahoma City's infrastructure. There's prohibitions in the agreement, or in the MOU, for UConn supporting annexation, de-annexation of the areas to City of Yukon. And as I said, they would be a participant in the wastewater master plan process. So we'll provide service to the area when our facilities are within proximity that we can switch them over. Oklahoma City will pay all of the costs associated with the wastewater master planning because it's the need that we have. It's not a City of Yukon need. And then the developer's responsibilities they'll have to complete all the required extensions per development processes, provide required easements, and cannot file for the annexation from Oklahoma City, annexation to City of Yukon. And with that, I'd be happy to answer any questions that you guys may have regarding the MOU.
Any questions?
No, sir.
Thank you.
All right, thank you.
So we now have this item for individual consideration. I recognize a motion to that effect.
Move the item.
It's been moved and seconded. Any further discussion? Seeing none, we'll vote. Approved. Moving into the Draper Water Treatment Plant on-site power generation. First item was a presentation on the Draper Water Treatment Plant on-site power generation.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. My name is Ron Mitchell. I'm your design manager for the CIP program for the Utilities Department. As you know, we have a number of large projects going concurrently around the city. In many of these projects involving our treatment plants, or both water and wastewater, we often find ourselves in situations where we may have power outages. And even in the water treatment plant process, just the smallest blip in power creates a problem. It creates our system shuts down, it takes a period of time to start back, and we have these issues. So that's a very easily defined weakness that we easily could solve, and we have been taking steps to address that. So we historically had pursued federal grants to help enhance the resiliency of our system. That included the receipt of funding from HUD and FEMA. Those monies were combined and were used to construct 4 different projects. 3 of these projects one is complete, 2 we're talking about today, and a 3rd will be coming early in 2018 for your final acceptance. In all, the projects are fairly well defined, and they've been talked about in front of trust a number of times over the years. And today we're talking about the acceptance of project WT0138 and WT0148, which is the pre-purchase of the power generation necessary to run the water treatment plant at Lake Stanley Draper, as well as the building and physical assets that house the generators and make everything work together. For this project in particular, we had funding of $10,800,000 plus from HUD and FEMA money of $2,999,000, and with the remaining funds necessary to complete this project coming from Aquit. You notice the other 2 projects that were mentioned were funded by HUD funding exclusively. Timeline for FEMA funding, everything had to be completed and all consultants and sub-consultants paid by September 30th of 2017. The HUD funding is to be completely expended by 2019. So with the completion of the generator project today, we are resolving what was just becoming for us a timeline problem, but it's been remedied, and here we are. We start off with the combination of using Corollo engineers for design services. We contracted with Wind Construction for the construction of the physical assets, and Lippert Brothers Construction for the power generation assets. That's working with Caterpillar for the delivery of all the machinery it takes to generate the power to run the water plant. So we have an immediate solution. We have backup power. We have the ability to operate during extreme outages. We can run our facility with no power coming from the grid. We can operate up to 100 million gallons a day treatment capacity. That helps us resolve our weaknesses with regards to power outages, blips, or sometimes long-term outages that we've experienced historically. Now, in accommodating that or accomplishing that, we run into conflicts or problems, as you can imagine. We had a short timeline. We had multiple contractors working on the same footprint of land. And as you can imagine, everything gets a little tense at times because people begin to need the same space at the same time to make the project a success. But those unique challenges provide opportunities for us to be creative and come up with solutions. In this case, Lippert Brothers Construction was to provide the generators. They contracted specifically with Caterpillar for the provision of those generators, but it became apparent pretty quickly that for the long-term success of the project, that it would be better if Aquit provides a direct contract with Caterpillar for the long-term maintenance. That way we're eliminating a party that wasn't necessarily involved, and it would save us some money long-term.
What are the size of the generators?
The size of the generators are 3.5 megawatts
Okay.
for the delivery of the
Right.
project.
Okay.
These are substantial.
Right. And the fuel source?
It's a combined source. It can be either a diesel or natural gas.
Good.
So this helps us provide long-term service for the citizens regardless of what type of conflict we may find. Short timeline, as I mentioned, multiple people working in the same spot. We begin to have conflicts between the two contractors. These are contractors that have served Oklahoma City and the trust for many years. But just due to the complexity of the project, we begin to have some conflicts that occurred. But Corollo, as the engineer for the project, stepped up and took a leadership role in getting these projects addressed. And it makes it a success in the end for all of us. In this case, Corollo and staff worked together with Wynn and Lippert to resolve these issues. We had a mediation meeting that brought all parties together and resolved the conflicting issues and bring a finality to the project in an improved state of completion for all of us that brings us here today. In the end, the 3 contracts that started is represented by 4 in the end. Corollo Engineers Services, Wynn Construction, Lippert Brothers, and we will have eventually a direct contract with Warren Caterpillar that provides the generator service long term. In the end, we start off, or just kind of as a summary here, we have original price for the total project was $21,876,000. After the resolution of getting everything done and working through all the obstacles that we had to deal with, final price for the project is right at $21,177,000, which is roughly 3.9% below the original construction contract amount. That is a general conclusion and summary of the 2 items that are about to be heard individually, I believe. If you have any questions, I'll be happy to.
Any questions? Thank you very much.
Thank you.
So the first order will be to vote on amendment number 2 and change order number 2 with the City of Oklahoma City and Lippert Brothers, Inc.
Move approval.
It's been moved and seconded. We'll vote. Approved. And the second item is concurrence with the City of Oklahoma City and approving amendment number 1 and change order number 3 with Wind Construction Company, Inc., and adjusting the costs as necessary and so forth.
Move approval.
It's been moved. It's moved and seconded. We'll vote. Approved. Thank you very much. Are there any items from trustees?
Just briefly, Your Honor, I wanted to thank Brett Weingart, Sam Simondi, and Craig Keith. I had a tutorial the other day that kind of brought me up to speed on water utilities and the trust, and they did a great job, and I wanted to thank Chris for setting that up. I also wanted to mention, I don't know if everybody saw this, but on Sunday, Jack Money from the Data Oklahoman did an article, Water Fuels OKC's Growth. And it's just a great historical perspective on what civic leaders did in the past, all the way back to the first well drilled at Broadway and Main. And I found it to be a good read, and that was helpful too. And I wanted to just be sure and thank those people that helped me.
Thank you very much. Good points. Any other items from trustees? Any general manager report?
No, sir, not this time.
Any citizens to be heard? Thank you. Seeing none, we're adjourned.